Good afternoon. My name is Iva Petrova. I am the mission chief at the IMF for Latvia. And thank you for coming to this event. This is the end of our Article 4 consultation visit for 2018. We had 2 weeks of discussions with the authorities and with the private sector on various issues related to the economic outlook of Latvia, to the risks, challenges going forward, and how to address these challenges. We're very grateful for the hospitality of the authorities and our counterparties and for the productive discussions that we had with them. I will make a few remarks about our assessment, and then I will pass the floor to you for questions. You already have the concluding statement, so you could see where we stand on issues. In terms of the economic outlook, 2017 was a very good year. Growth reached 4.5%. It was based on strong consumption, private investment, and utilization of EU structural funds. For 2018, we project growth of 3.7%, still largely driven by the same factors. We do expect exports to moderate in 2018. Over the medium term, we think that growth will moderate to about 3% as binding constraints start emerging. The fundamentals of the economy are mostly sound. The current account and the fiscal deficit are at prudent levels. Public and private sector debt are declining. Now, how do we see the risks? On the domestic side, we see that the labor market has tightened, and we think that further tightening could constrain competitiveness. We also see that fiscal policy has become more procyclical, and we think that further deepening could create overheating pressures. We also see some risks in the financial sector. These are related to the events that unfolded in February. We think that delays in enforcement of AML/CFT regulations and failure of banks servicing foreign clients could have an impact on confidence in the banking system as risks. On the external side, we think that growing protectionism around the world, tightening of global financial conditions, and potentially slower growth in advanced economy could have an impact on trade and growth in Latvia. Given these risks and the circumstances, we think that the prudent policy mix is needed to mitigate the risks and to ensure that the economy stays on sustainable long-term growth. Now, how do we see this policy mix across the different sectors? On structural issues, there is a need to preserve strong long-term growth. We think that there is a need for measures to ease the labor market constraints. These policies could focus on skill matching, skill building, better access to housing that will allow better labor mobility, revisiting the minimum wage structure to align it with productivity in different regions of the country, and also potentially encouraging labor immigration. We also think that there is a need for the government to continue with productivity enhancing reforms which are currently ongoing, because these reforms will be important to preserve long-term growth and deal with the demographic challenges that the economy is likely to face in the long term. On fiscal policy, as I mentioned, we think that fiscal policy has become procyclical, and we think that there is a need to reverse this procyclicality and build fiscal buffers. This will require some upfront savings, not least to offset the costs of the recently adopted tax reform package. We also think that there is scope to make fiscal policies more growth-friendly and inclusive, and this can be done in a number of ways. First, we think that the recently adopted income tax reform is a step in the right direction to reduce the high tax burden on wage income and improve progressivity and encourage investment. Government spending could focus in the medium term to a greater extent on investment, and this will help to offset the leveling off of EU structural funds in the medium term. We also think that there is scope for more efficient health and education spending and better targeted social protection programs. This will help to build human capital, improve labor productivity, and address the challenges that country faces in terms of poverty and inequality. In the financial sector, we see the need for policies in two aspects. First, we see that credit has slowed down. Again, it was fairly meek. It has slowed down again, and we think that credit needs to support the economy in the medium term, especially, again, as EU funds level off over the medium term. However, there are obstacles. One of these obstacles is related to the ability of creditors to recover their investments, and the other one is related to the shadow economy. So therefore, we think that there is a need to continue the reforms of the insolvency regime and the licensing of insolvency administrators and complete this reform. And also, there is a need to continue with the reforms combating the shadow economy. As you know, there were events that unfolded in February of this year that dented the reputation of the banking system. We think that nonetheless the banks are liquid, well capitalized, and stable. However, there is a need to introduce policies to strengthen, to improve and restore the reputation of the banking system. Among these measures, we think that it is important to have effective enforcement of AML-CFT regulations. There is a need for changes in the banking legislation alongside unification within the European Union, alongside harmonization of policies within the European Union to allow the regulator to liquidate banks that have been deemed failing or likely to fail by the ECB. And we also think that there is a need for very careful oversight of the refocusing of the business model of banks servicing foreign clients. We think that these measures will help to mitigate the risks in the financial system and preserve financial sector stability. Thank you, and with that I will pass the floor to you with questions.
My name is Iva Petrova from Reuters News Agency. I wanted to ask you a follow-up question regarding the financial sector and the non-resident banking. Could you please give your assessment on the work that the government has already done to clean up the sector and deal with the crisis? I mean, the non-resident banks and particularly the ABLV, the decision that it was self-liquidation.
I can take the questions one at a time. Regarding the cleanup of bank servicing foreign clients, indeed, deposits have declined very significantly since the beginning of the year, partly as a result of the measures that the authorities have undertaken. The authorities have shown resolve in the policies and measures to address the issues and to restore the reputation of the banking system. Regarding the liquidation, the voluntary liquidation of ABLV, we think that the authorities have operated within the framework that is currently available. As I said, we do think that there is a need for enhancing the tools that are available to the FCMC within a framework of harmonization with policies within the European Union.
Iva Petrova, TV3 News. Right now, on the political agenda, the insolvency sector is very much an issue. How do you rate the current government's progress in fixing and improving the control of the sector?
There has been a lot of progress done within this area. For example, there is a modernized insolvency legislation. There is a need for some further improvements. To our knowledge, the authorities are also taking measures to improve the insolvency administrator framework. As I mentioned, we think that this reform is very critical because an insolvency regime that is credible and is based on insolvency administrators or employs insolvency administrators who are qualified and have good expertise will provide an environment for credit growth and for supporting the economy. So for us, this is a very critical reform.
Aaron Iglesias, Bloomberg News. What kind of new business models would be viable for these non-resident banks if they see so much deposit outflow and the traditional business of transferring money is no longer available?
We think that this needs to be a business model that is obviously supervised and approved by the FCMC. It needs to be a business model that assures the regulator and the authorities that the banks will be viable and profitable and that will not increase the risks within the system.
Marina Kovalova, Radio. How you can evaluate the decisions to achieve this 5% of non-residents' money in Latvian banks when in other countries it's okay 20%?
We think that this is a decision of the authorities, and we think we don't have a very specific recommendation on how large should be the size of non-resident deposits. We think that the decision of the authorities to downsize the banks servicing foreign clients is appropriate within the need for refocusing the banks and cleaning up the banking system, ensuring that the banking system is sustainable.
To follow up on my colleague's question, can you assess what is the damage that has been done to the reputation of the Latvian financial sector since the events that unfolded in February? And what long-term implications it could have on the economy?
So in terms of the long-term implications, we have assessed that banks servicing foreign clients have an impact on the economy of about 0.5 to 1% of GDP, and this is the impact that potentially could take place over a period of time. We are not certain of the exact period of time that this would take. Of course, there are other implications related to the events that unfolded in February. These are related to confidence and the reputation of the banking system. And as I said, the authorities have started working to restore the reputation through various measures. And we think that the measures related to strengthening AML-CFT, enforcement of AML-CFT regulations, and refocusing the business model would help to restore the reputation of the banking system.
Let me ask another question. Speaking about the impact on the economy, you were saying that the real GDP growth is projected to reach 3.7% this year. Let's say, did you also include some possible, let's say, influence of this financial crisis on this projection, or you didn't take this financial crisis implications?
Correct, we did. In our WEO projections earlier this year, we forecasted 4%, and we have reduced our forecast to 3.7%.
So basically, 0.3%. That is the.
There are other factors. There are other factors that we have taken into account. So it is difficult to say that the 0.3 is just related to the banks servicing foreign clients, but roughly most of this impact is due to the impact on the financial system. Yes.
Do you have a forecast for 2019, or is it too early?
For 2019, it is not too early. It is about 3.4, I think. Yeah, 3.3.
Perhaps
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry. If I can ask, let's say there was also the detaining and the case with the governor of Bank of Latvijā. Did you also consider this aspect of the financial crisis, and not only the non-resident sector and the deposits and the money flow and the ABRB self-liquidation, but also the case of the governor of Bank of Latvijā when assessing the impact on the economy and reputational risks?
The main impact on the economy and the reputation of the financial system came with the events that unfolded in February.
When will be the next IMF's mission in Latvia, and what will be the main aspects you will be focusing on then?
We conduct Article 4 consultations every year. So next year again we will have a press conference. Next year. That's correct.
And what will be the main aspects you'll be focusing on?
We have not discussed the main topics yet, but we will discuss them in the course of the next several months, and then discuss them also with the authorities and determine the main topics.